Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first live Coach Marky Manila podcast show. I am your host. It is Coach Marky Manila here, and it's lovely to have you with me. Now, before I go any further, if you're listening to me wherever you are in the world, feel free to give me a shout out in the public chat box there. You can see that on your screen. But even if you're watching the re-recording of this, it's lovely to have you join me whenever and however you have found me. So if you find anything I talk about today in this show of help, please consider buying me a cup of coffee. It's always appreciated. Helps me keep going. Too much caffeine, well, probably not good for you, but it keeps me awake for all the hours that I'm working to try and develop content to help all of you lovely speakers of English as a second language or native speakers to really improve your public speaking confidence and motivation. So what can we talk about today? Well, we're going to have a chat about IELTS. This is something I get frequently asked about. I've got loads of questions that have come into me. So I figured I would make the first show a live show to talk to you all about some IELTS success tips. What do you do and not do? Okay, so if you're sitting comfortably, let's begin. So the first thing to say about IELTS, it is the gold standard, right? We all know how it feels to be under pressure, and this is the gold standard test. By that, it's a good idiom. It means it is the top, okay? Most of the universities, organizations do value you having an IELTS. And what's the most difficult part? Well, I suppose all of it. The main thing to understand is the marking scheme. Know that inside out, okay? It cannot be stressed enough because from your point of view, the mark scheme of the writing exam is quite prescriptive, to say the least, all right? You've really got to know what you're looking for. You can't just accidentally succeed on the writing part. So do take some time to really look into that. They are looking for your vocab and grammar. And just so you know, the vocab is 25% of your marks. So we are looking at both your complexity and the accuracy of how you're using it, the context. So if you're using highly advanced words or complicated structures, but you're using them incorrectly, it doesn't matter because your score will become quite low. So really, really check that out. And if you are struggling with your writing and would like some assistance with that, I can offer you a free 15-minute session with me. We can have a chat and have a quick look at any work that you've done in writing. I can give you a quick overview of what I feel and how to help you improve it. Of course, if you are happy with your writing, then that's great. But many of you might want to just double check that out and get some extra practice in. And of course, you can use a variety of services to actually submit task IELTS writing and have them, checked and recorded and then sent back to you with some feedback. Again, I offer that service myself. So if you want to know more about that, get in touch with me. So what else can we say? Well, you need to ensure that you get the balance right in the writing. And of course, don't forget, there's timings, right? Those timings are tricky to say the least because you've got to work out your timings. Basically, messing up the timings is the number one problem for most of you. So if you don't manage your time properly during the exam, then really, quite frankly, it's not going to work out well for you. So it's not always a reflection of your English ability, but more your time management. So remember, IELTS is particularly strategic, people. Okay, it's about your strategy and the technique that you're going to use and employ to ensure that you get through everything in the time allocated. So the reading section, for example, sometimes you can run out of time even before you can transfer your answers into the question booklet, all right? Or other times I've had it where perhaps on the writing section, it can happen and you don't get to finish it. You don't write your final conclusion, right? And you're going to lose a lot of marks there. So it's really important to get good at managing the time. And how do you do that? Well, here's the next one. Practice, practice, practice. Yeah. From your perspective, practice is your key strategy. It's what I work with in my masterclasses. When I do that in my one-to-one sessions, and in the past, I would say that it is the focus, the core of everything that you do here. And of course, right, it's a time-pressured exam, so it's very, very, very highly recommended here to get used to feeling exactly what it's like to write that essay for 30 minutes, okay, or to read that piece in 10 minutes and then transcribe your answers. Really, there are a variety of IELTS websites out there that you can do free practice tests on as well, people. So some of the ones I'd quickly mention are the British Council's, the IELTS website. If you just Google around that, you'll find it. There's also a great site called IELTS Essentials. I love that one. In the past, I've recommended that to a few people. Now, all of these sites are not sites anything to do with me, just so you know, for complete transparency, but it is worth checking it out, okay? Also, I would say to you, try to get focused, okay? So we want you to make this a consistent practice. So I'd like you to do this every single day. Maybe do 5 or 10 minutes a day, a couple of times a day, and break it into chunks, because statistically speaking, you have a better chance of improving if you do something consistently and regularly. It's like going to the gym, right? Same sort of thing there, and same principles apply. If you go to the gym just once a week and you do it for 30 minutes, well, if you look in the mirror and expect to be bigger or to be running faster on that treadmill, you're going to be sadly disappointed, because the chances are it's not going to make a huge impact. And you might blame the gym, but that would be wrong, right? It's not the gym that's at fault. It's how you're using the gym and your technique. So focus and do 5 to 10 minutes, a couple of chunks every single day. If you do that 7 days a week for 28 days, as those of you who work in my academy have known in the past, then we know this makes a huge difference to you, okay? You definitely need to practice the writing essays though, okay? That is essential, because the more you write, the better you become. And also, you need to ensure that you're getting the essays checked for your vocab and grammar mistakes. So this is, again, where you can submit them to me. You don't have to have a session at all. You literally can just submit them to me online. If you follow the links, okay, you go down to my website and you can buy those tasks as credits, and then send me your written articles, your essays, your letters, everything for the IELTS, and I will ensure that we can look at it and give you some feedback. We can look at the patterns. What are you frequently making mistakes over? How are you expressing your perspectives? And I can also give you some great feedback as to how to improve further. So it's a good time spent really to do that. And it's not a waste of money. It's an investment, because let's face it, it means you hopefully will only have to take the IELTS once and not repeat it. So it is money well invested. Also, this goes without saying, but we're going to say it anyway, practice the speaking exam. Okay, you've got to do this for parts 1, 2, and 3. You know, it's probably the second most difficult thing for most students, sometimes the first most difficult thing. And of course, it is perhaps the most nerve-wracking, because when you're taking it at an examination center, then it is a very, very, anxiety-provoking moment, all right? But I can teach you some techniques to help you relax here. And what we want you to do is remember to breathe. I know this sounds ridiculous to say, but breathing is the number one thing that many of my students and clients mess up, because if you are panicking, then you might shallow breathe. And when you shallow breathe, you tell your brain that there's a danger, there's a tiger, there's a volcano, there's something to get away from. And that causes that horrible beating in the heart, the feeling of the sweaty palms, perhaps your nervousness in your voice. And before you know it, your brain goes blank and you your way through the IELTS, or you might just be silent. Now, this is a huge problem. Basically, what's happened is that you become too anxious and nervous. The adrenaline and cortisol, those are two hormones that go way high when you get stressed or in a very dangerous situation. Transfer the oxygen from your brain and send it to your legs and your arms and your heart to get you out of the way of the tiger. The only problem is there is no tiger. It's just an IELTS exam. And of course, without the blood flow going to the brain as well, we're not going to be able to retrieve the information that you've got in your frontal cortex, where all of your verbal capacity is, because, you know, it's evolution. It's protecting you, because you don't want to get eaten by a tiger. You don't need to chat to the tiger. So, of course, your brain goes offline. You just need to run. So we got to get that back online. And the way we do it is by breathing in through our nose for the count of 4 very deeply. Okay, hold it for a second, then blow out through your mouth very deeply. Exhale, okay, for a couple of seconds. And you do that repeatedly before you go into the test to calm yourself down. You can also do it when you're in the middle of the test, okay? Take your time. Native speakers, we do pause from time to time, and it's a really good strategy to learn to pace how you're speaking, okay? So you've got to ensure that you are really focusing on your breathing, people, to keep everything nice and calm, so you've got better chance of saying the words that you want and coming out with a high score. Also, we want you to train yourself at home too. Okay, so I often say to my students, come to me for 2 sessions a week, and then the rest of the time, do 5 to 10 minutes every day. watch something, listen to something, read something, pick out the new vocab or the phrases that you like. And then what we want you to do is speak out loud to yourself immediately after watching it. So write down those new phrases you love. And then we want you to immediately summarize, I've been watching a YouTube video about something, blah, blah, blah. Use those new phrases that you've just heard that you like, okay? Get comfortable with this and record yourself. Watch yourself back and critique yourself like a coach, like I would do, and say, okay, yeah, I did well there. The pronunciation's good, or no, that doesn't make sense, does it? What have I said there? And if you do that for 5 to 10 minutes every day, again, every single day, 7 days a week for 28 days, you will notice a dramatic improvement in your English. I can guarantee it. If you want to experience that with me and actually get a one-to-one session, again, drop down below. The links are there, and then you can get a free 15-minute consult and I can take you through that. Also, be aware that your speaking examiner, the IELTS invigilator, may actually ask you questions in the middle of what you're saying. So the speaking itself takes about, 11 to 14 minutes, okay? Now, it can be a bit of a challenge to stay calm, as we've said, all right? And it's also worthwhile knowing that your speaking invigilator may actually interrupt you to change the topic. And, that can happen. And apart from that, which can also be quite disturbing, they might just say, okay, that's enough, let's move on. And you'll be like, oh, but I haven't finished. Don't panic, okay? They need to move you on, okay? Also, they might challenge you. They might say, oh, do you really think that? Okay, is that always going to be the case? So you need to remember that's a good kind of positive situation, because it means that they feel they can challenge you, they can ask you, and they want to see how much more you can respond with. Okay, but if you're not ready for this, it can be rather disturbing when they do it. All right. Now, I'm not trying to make this sound scary. It's just good that you know everything that can happen in there, because if you're prepared, then you're going to succeed at a much higher rate. Okay, so this is really important. So at the end of the day of the test, okay, we don't want this to be the first time that you're speaking in English. So I would like you to practice for at least 30 minutes prior to doing your test, okay, whenever your test day is, because then your brain is warmed up a bit like an athlete, and you're going to go into that performance and deliver a better result for yourself, okay? And you're also going to enjoy it more. But if you roll out of bed, go straight to the test center, or maybe leave meetings where you've been speaking Japanese all day and then switch into English, your brain is going to take a little while to warm up, and we don't want you to be warming up in the exam. We want you to have warmed up before it. Think of it like an athlete, right? An athlete does not go straight away to the track, take off their tracksuit and start running a sprint, right? Okay, they would injure themselves and they're not going to give their best performance, and the same applies to you, okay? So it's really important, exceptionally important, I would say, that you do that, and then you can really feel confident that you are going to deliver your best performance. Also, the other thing I would say here, what not to do, okay? Now, don't be doing the thing that everybody does, okay? Always I get asked, how can I get that top score, right? Okay. Oh, I want to be able to get this. I want to be able to get that, right? Okay. So know that for a fact, because of course, everything is aggregated in IELTS, which means your final score is a combination of all four parts: the listening, the speaking, the reading, and the writing, okay? So when you think about it, you need to be aware of how that can affect your score. So if you know that you're particularly weak in one area, don't try necessarily to overdo the area. Just focus on getting great scores in maybe your strongest area. So if your strongest area is speaking, but your weakest area is listening, and concentrate on making your speaking exceptionally good, and that should hopefully help offset any lower score in the listening. I'm not saying you shouldn't practice and improve your listening, and again, if you want to know how to do that, and I can really help you with that, I've got a great app that will help you. I'm developing at the moment. Then get in touch with me. So I would say to you, we want you just to focus on what you can do. Okay, we want to motivate you. Okay, and even native speakers don't get a top score in the IELTS. All right, so just let go of your dream to perfection, because there is just a case where good enough is going to be the best that you can do. I just want you to deliver your best. That's all. That's all I want you to know. Okay. Also, if you're using sort of unofficial sites or practice tests, right, there's loads of them out there, unfortunately. And quite frankly speaking, people know that it's big business. And there's many people who will be happy to take your money to say they're giving you proper practice tests, but they're not. Okay. So it's really good for you to just know that. There are probably about 4 different IELTS examination boards. All of them offer the practice tests. And so there is absolutely no reason on this earth why, okay, you should be buying any exam papers off the internet. All right. I really wouldn't recommend it. And don't take and use the unofficial practice test. They just mislead you. They don't help you at all. And frankly speaking, you are wasting your money. You're better off using that money in some coaching sessions. Okay. All right. Now, also, the other thing to say is that you want to take a little bit of time here. Remember, it's a 4-hour exam and you've got intense time pressures here. Okay, so that's also something to be aware of. So if you can remember this, there are no breaks between your sections. Okay, so when you think about it, you can go and get a toilet break in the middle of the exam, but not when the instructions are being passed out, and not in the last 10 minutes either. Okay, so just bear that one in mind. Okay, but if you do need to go, you need to put your hand up and the invigilator has to go with you to the toilet. All right, so okay, and it can take a bit of time. Some of these areas where you take the test and exams are big. All right, so bear in mind that could be a problem. Also, at the end of the day, yeah, the IELTS is very complicated, right? The main overall takeaway on this is to make sure you practice lots. So get some coaching sessions with either myself or another native English speaking tutor who has experience in coaching students to succeed at IELTS also. Understand that marking scheme, because if you don't know the timings and how it all adds up, you are just not going to get the right technique. Okay, the writing and speaking sections are the hardest ones, I would say, from your point of view. So do those with the help of a coach like myself. You can also practice with others online, but bear in mind that they might also be speakers of English as a second language, so that might not be so helpful. Okay, finally, don't try and aim for perfection. Okay, we just want you to be as good as you can get. All right, warm up your brain before you go into that. Remember to breathe, calm yourself down. Okay, and also the final thing to say here is make sure you have a roadmap for where you want to go. Okay, so when you're composing your answers, ready to then either speak, do like a brainstorm. So what I want you to do is, if they give you a question about what you think about public transport systems and global warming or climate change, you want to write down like a bubble map, okay, a mind map on that paper, and quickly scratch down the words that spin off out of your mind when you think about certain other key words. So if it's climate change, your bubble map might then come into floods, rising temperatures. You might want to talk about carbon dioxide. So these are the vocabs you want to scratch down first. Then you want to connect all of these ideas and these vocabs with some sort of sentence structures and transitional phrases. Don't forget, we want longer sentences, people, right? We do not want short sentences. So you want to say things like, well, firstly, there is this. In addition, there is that. Furthermore, blah, blah, blah. Because of this, it means blah, blah, blah. Due to that, XYZ. You get my point. So these are just a few of the top tips from some of the questions that I get asked. If you've loved this live episode, do feel free to buy me a coffee. The links are all down below. Also, if you're watching the re-record, you can still do that at any point in time. Also, if you sign up there at my Ko-fi site, you can also get access to my free podcast. There's loads of them there to choose from. Also, my subscription-only exclusive content, plus access to my apps that I'm developing to help you really improve both NLP guided meditations to focus yourself and calm yourself down, also to get IELTS success. Furthermore, there's training apps there to help you improve your pronunciation and keep you motivated. And in addition, you're going to get a whole host of motivation from me one-to-one. So don't forget, get your free 15-minute one-to-one coaching consult. The link is down below. Spread the word and let everybody know that these live podcasts are coming out there on YouTube. Like and subscribe, share it all over. And remember, your best is the best you can do. Take care, everybody. See you soon.